Alrighty. I know in my original comment to you wasn't that very well and detailed on how to adjust your aperture, or if you do not have a manual lens that has your aperture ring. I put a vague description in there of using a ND filter that you can do it, and this is how I did this, and I'll link the video to the shot that I used with the Z Cam with the Atmos Ninja. So basically what I got going on here, that's the Valtrox. This here, despite all the updates that I tried, let me zoom it in here, but it'll stay in focus, which I doubt it will. Okay, this here I cannot get to work. I tried all the updates and nothing will get this to work on your aperture. So what I do on my Canon 70D with the Canon 18 to 135 millimeter lens, I will take it and put it at 18 millimeter, which is its lowest aperture, at a 4. It goes from a 4 to a 5.6. So I let it do that in auto mode. Do not power your camera down if you have the Canon 70D or whatever lens you're using. If you have two cameras that are capable of doing this, do not power it down. Set it on its lowest focal point that it has, and it should be at a 4. So, and then just take the lens off. So now it's going to be locked at a 4. Now, to be able to control your aperture for your brightness, since you can't close it beyond that, I use, excuse me, let me zoom back out. I bought this right here. It's a Fortaga, how you pronounce that. But it's a variable ND filter, slim wide band, and it just screws on. It's a 6-7 millimeter. And if you're using the Canon or whatever lens you got, let's see if we can get it to zoom or focus in on the zoom, which it may not. There it is, 6-7 millimeter. So you're just going to screw that variable ND filter in, and then when you're outside, and if it's too bright, you know you're already at a 4, because this is what my lens can do at its lowest zoom. Now 4 to 5.6 is its max zoom. So if you expand your zoom out, you're going to go from a 4 to a 5.6. That's as much as it's going to let you go, but you still don't have no control actually over your IOS. Well, here's where the variable ND filter comes into play. You can set this, leave it at a 4, and you got to readjust your filter after you set it, and say you go to a 5.6. So if you was at a 4, you had it turned to where it'd be set darker. I have to turn it this way. I think minimum is this way, darker is counterclockwise. And depending on which brand you buy, it's going to be marked different. But it's got a little grade wheel on it. It tells you your minimum darkness and your maximum darkness. So you have to play with that depending on your zoom and adjust your brightness accordingly by playing with the filter. And if you're going to be shooting in like really dark lights, you do not need that filter. But if you're going to be out in daylight, in the video that I'm going to link to on here showing you this, you will most definitely need that, because the switch for the Valtrox does not control your aperture, but it ain't gonna really matter. Just set it to a 4. Even if you're at a 5.6, these lenses are not a low light. That's all your aperture is doing, is the lower your f-stop, the more light that's going to come in. And it gets pretty pricey if you want to get down to a 1.5, a 1.0, a 0.0, whatever the hell they got out on the market there is beyond my price point that I'm going to pay for a freaking lens. But you get what you pay for. But this is just a quick, simple solution, and I think the video turned out really good. Just using one of these little cheaper filters. Now, with the cheaper filters, variable ND, it does screw or mess with your autofocus. I don't use auto anything anymore. Everything I do now is manual only. And it's a bit of a learning curve. It's a real pain in the butt. But once you start getting better at it, trust me, you won't look back at auto anything again unless you just want something really quick, run and gun, that you can throw up on YouTube that's maybe like a minute or two long, and you don't really even care about color grading. But I shoot manual everything. I mean, these cameras have some version of, I guess if you want to call it an auto, which is really trash. But I just shoot manual. That's the easiest way, and just setting it up. I mean, even on my Cam E2C and my Blackmagic Pocket 4K, my original, even on my Canon 70D, I don't even really use auto anymore. If I'm doing video, the only time I use audio is when I am doing like photography. That's it. That's the only time auto goes on. It's when I'm taking pictures. Everything else I do manually, and it's a pain. You'll lose some shots because you're readjusting your camera and everything, but when you get better at it the more you do it. But yeah, I just decided to make this little quick video. This is what you need if you do not have a manual lens, but you still want to use like a Canon 18 to 135 millimeter lens and switch it over to manual focus to adjust your aperture so you don't blow out everything. You need one of these variable ND filters. This is the one I use here. I think it was like 15 bucks. I may be wrong. It may have been 20 bucks or 25 bucks. I can't remember. I bought it, this one and 3 others in a kit, which had the individual pricing on the filters, but I cannot remember what they sold for individually. And these are the cheap ones. Now, you get into the higher dollar ones with your more expensive one, it does not mess with your autofocus if you decide to use autofocus. A friend of mine, I'm not going to mention his name because I haven't got permission to, he had some pretty expensive ones. I mean, real expensive. We're talking like 300 bucks expensive. And I didn't get to leave and use it on my own. He was there with me, hovering like Mother Hummingbird or whatever. But yeah, it did not mess with the autofocus, anything. It worked like a charm, but there you go. You're looking at some major money for that. These are plastic. I don't remember if it said these things were actually glass. I seriously doubt they're hand-polished glass to precision, whatever their website said it was precisionally done to, or what they might even change that with some backlash. I mean, but you ain't getting real glass for $15 to $25. That's worth a crap. I mean, come on, just be realistic. So, yeah. So, I hope this helped you out anyways. I talked on long enough. So, yeah, I hope this helps.